Hi, I am Allie Camaletti, and you are listening to Snack Leadership. I will be talking about everything leadership, broken down into bite-sized pieces. You will hear what different leadership skills look like in organizations and how they can rise teams up or take them down. I help leaders build resilience and improve performance by bringing awareness to opportunity behaviors in my business. Spark your mindset. I provide leadership and sales coaching, as well as team building and guest speaking. My hope is for you to feel inspiration and to create a spark in your mindset. Today we are talking about risk. Risk is taking a chance. When taking a risk fails, it results in making mistakes with the potential for loss or injury. Danielle Cobo is a previous Fortune 500 senior sales manager. She led a historically poor-performing team to number one despite downsizing, restructuring, and acquisitions. As an individual contributor, she earned 4 consecutive President's Club awards. With over 15 years of experience in medical sales, she has taught thousands of people how to achieve their goals with unshakable confidence and live their best lives through keynote speeches, corporate programs, and one-on-one coaching. I met Danielle at a National Speakers Association conference in 2022 during a networking presentation. When we introduced ourselves to one another and learned that we both live in the same sales and leadership world as well as have podcasts, we instantly felt connected. Get ready to hear what risk is all about. Hi, Danielle. Thank you so much for joining us today. I could not be more excited about this topic of risk.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be on your podcast.
So let's start off. What made you embrace this leadership skill of risk?
There was a pivotal moment in my life when I was 17 years old, and my mom and I had a very tumultuous relationship where, unfortunately, my mom had suffered from some mental health issues, and I got kicked out of the house. And I remember the next day, the school counselor of all people pulled me into her office, and she's talking about me and she's asking me questions about what happened. And she eventually said, if you don't go back home and amend things with your mom, this is after I had been pushed down the stairs and slapped across the face, that you're never going to amount to anything in life.
Wow.
Yeah, very harsh to hear, especially from a school counselor. And it was at that moment where I decided in my mind, I was either going to listen to other people, whether they knew the background, the story, what was going on in my life, or I was going to follow my own intuition and knowing what is the best for my own mental, physical, and well-being, and decide that I mattered. And it was at that moment, and I remember that moment so clear as if it was yesterday, that I learned to take risks. And it's interesting because there have been times where I've taken risk, and then there's also been times where I have been very scared to take risk, and it has kind of sometimes held me back in my career. So it's interesting how it's been a strength, but in also some ways it's held me back in different areas, and it's ever evolving. But it's also one of the reasons why when I work with companies, I work with on how people can develop the skills, how they can develop grit, resilience, courage necessary to thrive in complex and changing market. It's because of these life lessons that I've been able to develop the skills to teach other people to do the same.
And how beautiful at such a young age to recognize that that was a defining moment that was going to affect the rest of your life and how you operate. So talk to me more about what it really looks like when you embrace it.
When I embrace risk, what happens is I learn new skills. I develop and grow as a person. And it's often uncomfortable, and there's five areas that hold us back from taking risk. It's often uncomfortable. However, it's when we grow the most. So when I start to position my mindset and saying, okay, this is going to be uncomfortable. However, it's going to develop me into the person that I want to be tomorrow. I'm a little bit more willing to jump in and try new things. I always think about, it's not about what do I want to do. It's when I embrace risks, who do I get to be when I do? What type of life do I get to have? What type of mom do I get to be? What type of spouse do I get to be? What type of impact do I get to make on the world and the people that I impact, whether it's through the keynote speaking or whether it's through corporate programs that I offer? It's who do I get to be and the impact that I get to make when I embrace risk, when I learn and grow as a person.
So good. And I love that you bring up about like you've got to name it almost to tame it, I call it. And sometimes I don't feel like I'm as ahead of the game with that. What'll happen is I'm in it and I'm like, oh, this is uncomfortable. I'm not crazy about this feeling. And then I'll be like, oh, yes, Sally, you're changing, you're growing. It's good. You can relax now. And so I will always go to that naming it to tame it to move forward with it. That uncomfortableness that we can feel can be so hard at times.
But it's often, for me, I know my body very well, and our bodies are powerful in communicating when something is off. So it whether be with if we have stress, one of the things I do is a weekly body scan. And what I mean by that is every week I stand in front of a mirror and I look at how is my body communicating to me that I'm stressed. And often stress is related to change, taking risks. And so it starts with, okay, is my hair dry and brittle? Is it falling out? Is it thinning? Is my face broken out with acne? Is my skin dry? Is my stomach turning into knots? Is it feel like my digestion's not working properly? Do I have bags under my eyes? So I really start with the top down. It's my weekly body scan. And I say, what is my body communicating to me and saying, you're stressed, you're burnt out, or possibly you're experiencing change and this is uncomfortable and it's coming out, and I'm communicating to you that this is coming out. And when that happens, then I say, okay, well, what's causing it? What is the source and the cause? And a lot about adapting to change and taking risks has to do with having the self awareness to identify, is it a story in our head or is it a reality? Is it the perception or the reality? And often it's the story we tell ourselves. It's possibly either old habits that we've developed, things that what people have said to us, maybe their own limiting beliefs that they've been projected onto us. But when we're able to identify and say, okay, something's off, my body's communicating it to me, as you said, I'm going to name it to tame it and identify specifically what it is. And then I get to ask myself, is it a perception? Is it the story I'm telling myself, or is it actually reality? And when I am consulting or when I'm speaking, I talk about what are some ways that we can build unstoppable confidence. And it starts by doing those few steps before moving on to what are the techniques and tools that we can do to break through it.
So good. So good. Yeah. So talk to me about why people don't take risks.
There are a lot of reasons why we don't take risks, but I am going to share with you, I would say probably the top 5. One of them is the fear of the unknown. It's the adapting to a new situation. It is walking into a dark room and going, "What's in here?" Or approaching a door and going, "What's on the other side?" Anytime that we don't know what to prepare for, there is whenever there's this unknown, there's this uncertainty of what could lie on the other side. What happens is our body's natural reaction is to go into fight or flight. Do I fear the unknown and so I want to run away? Or do I want to fight? Do I want to guard myself? And that's one of the areas that holds us back. But the reality is there's going to be times where there's going to be a lot of uncertainty. We could lose a job tomorrow. We could go through I have worked for a Fortune 500 company. I was leading a team for a Fortune 500 company. And during my 7 years of leading this team, we went through corporate restructuring. We went through downsizing. I had 8 people on my team and I lost 4 people in one day because of corporate restructuring. We've gone through multiple acquisitions. We went through a hostile takeover that made national worldwide news because of a hostile takeover, a company that was trying to do with us. We have gone through a lot of uncertainty, and that can cause anxiety. It can cause sometimes cancer within a culture. And you can't always prepare for the future, but even just knowing, okay, what is that root cause of the unknown? What is taking place? Then the second is the fear of judgment. If I take this risk, what's going to happen? What are people going to think of me? I have had clients who were very successful lawyers and they left practicing law because they wanted to coach women how to be effective speakers. And a lot of people are saying, why would you leave a career in law? But she followed her passion. And the reality is there's always going to be people that are going to judge us. And often it's because it's their own limiting beliefs, their own thought process of why they can't, that they projected onto us. And the third is financial insecurity. Anytime that we're taking risks, whether it's starting a business, whether it's whether or not to go for a promotion, go for a new job, there's the financial insecurity, that scarcity mindset of, well, what if it doesn't work out? What if I can't provide for my family? What if I fail at what I'm doing? And that can sometimes hold us back. And sometimes it's a matter of saying, okay, well, do I have enough as a savings account to kind of float me for a little while? Or maybe it might be I am going to take, I left a corporate position to become a speaker and become a corporate trainer, but I also I knew that it would be a little bit of a change in that security of the salary, the stock options, the company car, all of that. But I believed in myself and to go forward. And also being financially responsible and saving for that. And then the fourth is perfectionism. And oh,
Oh yeah.
this is one of those that perfectionism steals our joy.
Totally.
Perfectionism is procrastination in disguise. And when you find yourself in perfectionism, that I am scared to take risks because I want everything to go perfectly. The reality is we're gonna fail. And I always say if you're gonna make a mistake, don't make the same mistake twice. Make sure it's new and original. It's okay to make mistakes. Learn a lot through making mistakes and failing. That's how we grow as an individual. But perfectionism and reminding ourselves that often our imperfect is somebody else's perfect. Sometimes our greatest strength it just comes natural to us. We think, well, everybody can do that. Oh my gosh, like this is not perfect. But the reality is our imperfect, maybe somebody else is perfect. Our strength that comes so natural to us does not come natural to other people. And so why are we going to hold off and prevent ourselves from taking risks just because we're trying to do things perfect? Sometimes it's a matter of just putting one foot forward each day and just taking those little steps in the right direction. And then I would say the fifth one and the final one that I'm going to share with today, there's much more than that, is that imposter syndrome. It's that, who am I to say that I am an expert in this area? I remember when I was interviewing for a sales rep position, And while I was interviewing, the hiring manager asked me, what have you ever thought about leadership? And I said, yes, I've always wanted to be a leader. I was 30 years old. I had 7 years in a successful track record of success in sales, earning 4 consecutive President's Club, but I had no direct leadership experience. And so that imposter syndrome immediately sunk in and said, who am I to call myself a leader? But the reality is we've all got to start somewhere. I wouldn't say, and I ended up, that's when I became the leader for the Fortune 500 company. I wouldn't say that my first year as a leader was wildly successful. I made a lot of mistakes during that first year. Uh, Within my first 2 years is when we had the hostile takeover, when I lost 4 of the 8 people on my team. Within 3 years, I moved from the West Coast to the East Coast, leading 2 different teams. I mean, it's definitely a lot of change, but because I was willing to take those risks and I was able to grow and develop. And what people have shared with me during that time was what I learned in leadership within 3 years, most leaders learn in 10 years because there was so much packed into that short amount of time frame.
As I hear you talk, I think about really entrepreneurship. Because having worked with a team of entrepreneurs, every single point you just talked about came up in our roundtables. Imposter syndrome is definitely one of the tops across the board with entrepreneurs. I ran into hearing that. Perfectionism, absolutely. I think that's why they're at where they're at, because they hold these really high levels, but it's understanding how to not let that take you down.
Yeah. And you're right. A lot of these areas that hold us back in taking risks, as an entrepreneur, there's no doubt I can easily identify times where I've felt all of these in starting a business. But the people that are very successful, I think, as leaders or as individual contributors are the people that take ownership in their career, the people that take ownership of having that entrepreneur spirit. There's being an entrepreneur and owning your business, but there's an entrepreneur type spirit where you are running your own business within an organization and taking ownership of how you're building the business, the impact that you're making on the people around you. In leadership, I say your team is your number one customer. Take care of your team, and then they will take care of the customers. But in a leadership position, that fear of the unknown might be the fear of going for promotion. The fear of the unknown might be, we're going to go through a corporate restructuring or layoffs. What are we going to do? How am I going to be empathetic to the people that have been displaced? And then how am I going to inspire and motivate the people that are with the organization that we can get through this? The fear of the judgment might be, I've got to provide some constructive feed forward coaching to an employee. And what if I say the wrong thing? How are they going to judge me? What if I do the wrong thing? That financial insecurity might hold us back because maybe we're sometimes taking a step down, I would per se, in the corporate ladder so that we can eventually move up in the corporate ladder, or maybe we're taking a new job that might be less in the pay, but then the growth within the organization could be greater.
That just came up with somebody I was talking with, and they were like doing the pros and cons of a shift in their own work. And I said, where's the happiness factor come in? And he's like, you're right. And that's what everybody keeps telling me. I said, that's got to be a big piece of this.
Absolutely. My husband at 32 years old had a successful business, recently graduated with his MBA. And at 32 years old, the last age that you could join the Army, closed down his business and joined the Army. The reason why he did it, it's that sometimes it's not always about the money. It's about the purpose. It's about the passion. His purpose was, his father was an immigrant from Cuba. He came on the Peter Pan flights when Castro came into office, and he lived in an orphanage for several years, then becoming a very highly respected general surgeon. And my husband wanted to give back to the country that provided his family these opportunities. And so that goes into that happiness factor that you're talking about. He's never been more fulfilled. He's a Black Hawk pilot. He loves what he does.
Oh, I love that story. It's a great story. So, talk to me about who is your favorite leadership mentor?
My favorite leadership mentor, and it probably goes into, again, that why. Why do you do things? Why do you take risks? What's your purpose? Is Simon Sinek. The book that I read of his is Start with Your Why. And when I read that book, I reevaluated, what is my why? What are my core values? What is the legacy that I want to leave? And it started with that book. And Simon Sinek is always somebody that I follow. I enjoy following.
Nice. And then what about a quote? A quote that you really feel embodies this concept of risk?
I would say it's by Jim Rohn. And it is, if you are not willing to take risks, the unusual, you will have to settle for the ordinary. And one thing that I have learned about myself is I am very stubborn. And a lot of people will say that stubbornness is a good quality, but for me, stubbornness has benefited me in life. And that is, I am stubborn in the fact that I am unwilling to accept ordinary. I am unwilling to accept that failure is going to be my outcome. I am unwilling to accept that when somebody says, if you don't do something, if you don't go back to your mom, you're going to fail in life. My stubbornness has said, no, I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to take risk. I do not want to accept ordinary.
And I like to close with, what is your favorite snack?
Ooh, my favorite snack. So my family and I recently completely changed our eating habits. One, because we found out that I have 5-year-old twin boys, and one of them we found out has allergic to a food allergy to milk and eggs.
Yeah.
There's a lot of food that have milk
Yep.
and eggs. So we just realized that we wanted to just live a healthier lifestyle. So I eat it every single day. It's called PB2 Fit. And it is a powder peanut butter that you mix with water, and you can make it the consistency that you want, but it's only got 1.5 grams of fat and 9 grams of protein. So I will mix that in the evening as my dessert. I'll mix that with a protein shake, or I'll mix it and I'll put it on like a brown rice cake. I love peanut butter.
That is,
I know.
No, it's great. It's great. I think it's awesome. So much great information. I'm really excited for everybody to be able to hear this and think about these different points that you talked about with embracing risk. Danielle, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Snack Leadership. I hope you felt inspiration, motivation, and felt your mindset spark. Snack Leadership is recorded and produced by myself, Ali Camilletti, and music by Shireen Amini.